Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be the guy writing one of these posts. You know the ones. The heartbroken husband who's suddenly realizing his marriage wasn't what he thought it was. I used to scroll through stories like this, shake my head and think, could never be me. Well, here I am. My wife, Tara, not her real name, and I have been together for 8 years, married for 5. We met at a friend's housewarming party, hit it off instantly. She was loud, confident, and funny. The kind of woman who could walk into a room and everyone noticed. I love that about her. I'm more of a quiet, keep to myself kind of guy, and I guess I liked how she brought color into my life. We built what I thought was a good life, decent jobs, a cozy little townhouse, 2 cats, weekend trips whenever we could afford them. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. That started to change about 6 months ago. She got a new job at a marketing firm downtown. At first, I was proud. She'd been stuck in a toxic office for years, and this was her dream opportunity. She came home glowing every day, talking about the team and this new creative energy. I loved seeing her happy. But then little things started to shift. She was suddenly too tired to hang out in the evenings. Her phone was glued to her hand, always face down, notifications off. She started dressing up more for work, even on casual Fridays. I remember one night she came home around 11, saying she and her coworkers went out for drinks after a big presentation. No text, no call, nothing. Just walked in smelling like expensive perfume and someone else's cologne. When I asked about it, she laughed and said, "You're being paranoid. It's networking, babe." That word, networking, became her favorite excuse. I told myself not to overthink it. I trusted her, or at least I wanted to. But gut feelings don't lie, and mine was starting to scream at me. It was a random Thursday night, one of those evenings where everything feels off, but you can't put your finger on why. Tara was working late again, which had become the new normal. I was sitting on the couch, half watching a rerun of The Office, when her iPad started buzzing on the coffee table. Now, before anyone judges me, I wasn't snooping. I hadn't touched her stuff in years. But the screen lit up with a message preview that froze my blood. It said, "Can't stop thinking about last night. You taste incredible." At first, my brain didn't even process it. I literally blinked, thinking it must have been spam or some stupid group chat prank. Then another one popped up. "Hope your husband bought that networking story again, wink face." That's when my hands started shaking. The messages were from someone saved as T. Just the letter. No last name, no emoji. She'd hidden it that way. I couldn't open the full chat because it required her Face ID, but I didn't need to. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I was going to be sick. I remember sitting there for a full 5 minutes, staring at the iPad like it might explain itself. My heart was pounding so loud it drowned out the TV. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a joke between coworkers. Maybe it wasn't even directed at her. But deep down, I knew. You just know when something is off. When she finally came home around midnight, she was all smiles. "We had a huge campaign win tonight. You should have seen me, babe. I crushed the pitch." She kissed me on the cheek, smelling faintly of alcohol and someone else's cologne again. And I just stood there, numb, pretending everything was fine while that message burned in the back of my skull. I told myself I'd get proof before I accused her of anything. I needed to be sure. And oh, I was about to be. About a week after the iPad messages, I decided to test something. Tara told me she had another client dinner on Friday. I played it cool, smiled, told her to have fun, even handed her my credit card when she said she might need to cover the tab. She gave me that sweet smile, kissed me on the forehead, and said, "You're seriously the best husband ever." I wish I could say I didn't melt a little at that. Even then, part of me wanted to believe she was telling the truth. But when she left, I waited 10 minutes and grabbed my car keys. I had a weird, shaky adrenaline running through me, like I already knew this night would change everything. I drove toward the restaurant she mentioned, parked across the street, no sign of her car. Checked Google Maps to make sure I had the right place. I did. Then I waited. 30 minutes passed. No Tara. Finally, I texted, "Hey, how's dinner going?" She replied almost instantly, "Just starting." Love you. That was the moment my stomach turned. Because if she was just starting dinner, she wasn't in the restaurant I was parked outside of. I drove around downtown aimlessly for a while, not even sure what I was looking for, until I saw her car. It was parked outside a mid-range hotel, one of those business traveler spots that look boring from the outside, but charge by the hour if you know who to ask. I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I parked a block away, just staring at the entrance, every nerve in my body screaming. And then she walked out, laughing, hair a mess, holding the arm of some guy in a suit. He wasn't even trying to hide it. He leaned down and kissed her right there in front of the hotel entrance. It was like time froze. I didn't get out. I didn't yell or make a scene. I just sat there, heart hammering, watching my wife kiss another man under the same streetlights we used to walk beneath after date nights. She got in his car, not hers, and they drove off. I followed them for a bit, just long enough to see them pull into another bar together. That's when I turned around and drove home, shaking so hard I could barely steer. When she came home around 2 a.m., I was sitting on the couch in the dark. She jumped when she saw me and said, "Jesus, you scared me. What are you doing up?" I looked at her and said quietly, "How was the hotel, Tara?" Her face went completely still. Then she laughed, and said, "What are you even talking about? You're being insane." And that was the moment I realized she wasn't just cheating, she was a world-class liar. I didn't sleep that night. I don't think I even blinked. She went straight to the bedroom, slammed the door, and pretended nothing had happened. I just sat there, staring at the wall, every lie she'd ever told suddenly lining up like puzzle pieces that finally fit. In the morning, she came out acting like nothing was wrong. She was wearing one of my hoodies, hair still a little tangled, yawning and asking if I wanted coffee. That fake normalcy broke something in me. I said, "Tara, stop. I saw you last night." She froze mid-sip, then set her mug down slowly. "What are you talking about?" "I saw you. At the hotel, with him." Her eyes flicked up, just for a split second, and I saw it. That tiny flicker of panic before she covered it with anger. "You followed me? Are you serious right now? Do you even hear how psycho that sounds?" Classic deflection. I stayed calm. "You told me you were at a client dinner, Tara." "I was." Afterwards, we went to grab a drink at the hotel bar. "Nothing happened," she snapped, already raising her voice. "You kissed him," I said. That's when she really lost it. She threw up her hands, said, "Oh my God, it was just a stupid mistake." I had too much to drink. He leaned in. "I didn't even mean to." Her words spilled out faster and faster, like she was trying to bury the truth under noise. I asked who he was. She claimed he was a coworker who's been too flirty lately, and that she didn't want to make things awkward at work. Then when I didn't buy it, she flipped the script completely. She said, "Maybe if you'd paid more attention to me, I wouldn't have needed to go out so much." That hit me like a slap. I just stared at her, the woman I married, realizing she was actually trying to blame me for her cheating. I asked one last time, "Are you sleeping with him?" She crossed her arms, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "No." "You're being paranoid." I didn't say anything else. I just got up, grabbed my keys, and walked out the door. I drove around aimlessly for hours, ending up at some 24-hour diner, sitting there with cold coffee and the sound of clinking silverware drowning out the echo of her lies. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't going to admit it, not because she didn't do it, but because she didn't think she had to. After that nightmare of a confrontation, things between us got icy. She acted like nothing happened, making breakfast, humming in the kitchen, pretending we were fine. I played along, mostly because I needed time to think, but inside I was boiling. If she wanted to gaslight me, fine. I'd get proof she couldn't twist her way out of. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I started digging. I checked our phone bill online, something I hadn't done in months. Right away, a number popped out. Repeated calls, dozens of texts, all at weird hours. Midnight, 1 a.m., even during her so-called late meetings. The number wasn't saved, but it matched the initials from her iPad, T. That's when I decided to take it a step further. I installed a small GPS tracker in her car. Nothing illegal, just a cheap device that pings location data to my phone. The first night she worked late, she ended up not at her office. Not even close. She was parked at the same damn hotel I'd seen before. The next day, I checked her laptop while she was in the shower. I didn't expect much. She was careful. But I noticed her email had an archive folder she never used before. My hands were shaking as I opened it. And there it was. Hundreds of emails with the guy. His name was Trent, and he wasn't just a coworker. He was her boss. Married, 2 kids. The emails were everything. Explicit, emotional, all of it. She even called him the only one who understands me. That line wrecked me. I just sat there staring at the screen, feeling like my insides were being scraped out. There was one email that really broke me. It was from the week before the client dinner she'd written, "Can't wait to see you Friday. I'll tell him I'm working late again. He never questions it. That's me. The idiot husband who never questions it." I printed the emails, every single one, stuffed them into a manila folder. That night, when she came home, she was on her phone, smiling, probably texting him. I waited until she sat down, then slid the folder across the table. Her smile faltered. "What's this?" "Proof," I said. She opened it, saw the first page, and went pale. Then she did something that honestly stunned me. She laughed. "Wow," she said, shaking her head. "You've really been busy, huh? Creeping through my stuff? You're insane." No apology, no remorse, just venom. I told her I was done. She went silent for a second, then said, "You're not really leaving me over this, are you?" It didn't mean anything, and I realized in that moment, she didn't even care that she destroyed us. She only cared that I caught her. That night turned into the ugliest one of my life. After I told her I was done, she completely dropped the sweet, misunderstood act. It was like she flipped a switch and became someone else. Someone cold, cruel, and vindictive. She scoffed, crossed her arms, and said, "So what? You're just gonna walk away?" Over a few emails and a kiss? Grow up, I told her I had proof it was more than that. The hotel visits, the late nights, the messages. It wasn't just a mistake. She rolled her eyes and muttered, "You really went full detective, didn't you? God, you're pathetic." Pathetic. That word hit harder than I want to admit. When I didn't respond, she started pacing, throwing her hands around. "Do you have any idea how stressful my job is? How exhausting it is trying to hold everything together while you just sit there acting like Mr. Perfect?" I just stared at her, numb. "You mean while I was paying the mortgage and trusting you?" She smirked. "Oh, please. Don't act like you're some saint. We were barely talking before any of this. You stopped trying a long time ago." That was her pattern. Deflect, attack, rewrite history. And I'll admit, for a moment it worked. I started questioning myself. Was I distant? Did I miss something? Was I somehow the reason she did this? Then she said something that snapped me right out of it. "Maybe if you were more like him, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere." It was like being punched in the chest. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just said, "You know what, Tara? You deserve each other." I packed a bag. Just a few clothes, my toothbrush, and the cat's favorite toys, because there was no way I was leaving them behind. As I headed for the door, she said, "You'll come crawling back." "You always do." I didn't even look at her. I walked out, shut the door, and sat in my car in complete silence. I remember gripping the steering wheel, shaking, not out of anger, but from the sheer shock of realizing I didn't know who I'd been married to for 5 years. And as I sat there in the dark, engine idling, one thought kept replaying in my head. She's not sorry, not even a little. When I left that night, I didn't have a plan. I just drove until I ran out of tears, ended up at a cheap motel on the edge of town, the kind with buzzing fluorescent lights and paper-thin walls. The guy at the desk didn't even look up when I paid cash for the room. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the ugly floral curtains, trying to process what just happened. My wife, my best friend, or at least the person I thought was, had been lying to my face for months, maybe longer. I'd been living in a performance, and everyone but me had read the script. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with him. The hotel entrance, the emails, that smug smirk when she said I was pathetic. In the morning, I called in sick to work. Couldn't face anyone. I just drove to a nearby park and sat in the car watching people walk their dogs, like the world hadn't just exploded. That's when my phone started lighting up. 15 missed calls, 22 unread texts, all from her. I finally read them around noon. It started with, "We need to talk." Then, "I'm sorry you found out like that." Then, "I didn't mean for it to go that far." And finally, "You're overreacting. We can fix this if you just calm down." That last one made me laugh. The bitter kind. Fix this? Like we'd broken a vase or missed a bill payment, not the entire foundation of our marriage. By evening, she'd switch tactics again. More guilt trips. "You're abandoning me when I need you most. You don't just throw away a marriage because of a mistake." She even threw in the classic, "I still love you." That one hurt more than it should have, because I wanted to believe it. I wanted to think that somewhere under all the lies, there was a version of her that loved me once. But love doesn't look like deceit. It doesn't look like a hotel room and a smirk. I didn't respond to any of her messages. I just sat in that car until sunset, letting the silence settle in. For the first time in years, I was completely alone. And weirdly, beneath the heartbreak and rage, there was something else there too. Something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. The next few days were a blur. I stayed with my buddy Mark. He's one of those quiet, no-drama types who doesn't pry, but somehow knows exactly when you need a beer in silence. He just handed me one and said, "You don't have to talk until you're ready." Meanwhile, Tara kept blowing up my phone. Calls, texts, voicemails, all over the place emotionally. One minute she was crying, the next she was furious. "You're destroying our marriage. I can't believe you're ghosting me. I'll do anything to fix this. You're being childish." The whiplash was unreal. It was like she was trying every possible emotional button until something worked. Then she started reaching out to mutual friends. I found out because one of them, Sarah, called me and said, "Hey, Tara's been saying some stuff. Are you okay?" Apparently, Tara told people I'd had a mental breakdown and was making up crazy accusations. She even claimed I was controlling and paranoid, that I'd been tracking her like some stalker. I almost laughed. The irony was insane. She cheated, got caught, and still had the nerve to paint herself as the victim. But here's where karma stepped in. Remember that Trent guy? Yeah, his wife found out. Turns out she'd suspected something for months and had hired a private investigator. She showed up at Tara's office with photos of them together at the same hotel multiple times. I didn't even have to say a word. The whole story blew up on its own. Tara's coworkers found out. Trent's wife filed for divorce, and HR got involved. He was her boss. That crossed about 15 company policies. Tara called me sobbing that night. She said, "They fired me. Everyone knows. My life is ruined. Are you happy now?" Happy? I wasn't happy. I was exhausted, broken. I told her calmly, "I didn't ruin your life, Tara. You did that yourself." She hung up. For the first time, I felt detached, like I was finally watching the chaos from the outside instead of being in the middle of it. And as everything around her fell apart, I started realizing something important. The woman I married and the woman who did all this, they weren't the same person. Maybe they never were. After everything blew up, the affair going public, her losing her job, Trent getting divorced, I felt like I should have felt vindicated, but I didn't. It wasn't satisfying. It was just quiet, empty, like watching a building burn down that you used to live in. The first week back on my own was strange. I moved into a small apartment closer to work, half the size of the townhouse, but somehow easier to breathe in. No constant tension in the air, no fake good mornings, no second guessing the silence. But the quiet had a weight to it. I'd catch myself turning to say something to her. Something dumb like, "We're out of coffee." And then remember, there was no "we" anymore. I started going through the motions. Work, gym, sleep. My co-workers could tell something was off, but I didn't have the energy to explain. You get tired of saying, "My wife cheated," like it's just another line in your story instead of a bomb that went off in your chest. Then one night, I made the mistake of checking social media. Tara had already scrubbed her account clean. New profile picture, a few self-love quotes, and a post that read, "Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself broken heart sparkle." I almost threw my phone across the room. She was rewriting the whole thing like it was some personal growth journey instead of a trail of destruction she'd left behind. But that anger didn't last long. What hit harder was the sadness underneath. Because for years, she was my person. We built a life together, shared dumb inside jokes, held each other through real stuff. Her mom's surgery, my job loss, our miscarried pregnancy. And now, she was just a stranger who happened to know my Wi-Fi password. That night, I sat down and wrote everything out. Every lie, every red flag I'd ignored, every excuse I'd accepted. I wrote until my hand cramped. It wasn't about revenge or closure. I just needed to see the truth on paper. By the time I finished, I realized something. I wasn't writing about her. I was writing about me, about how much of myself I'd lost trying to keep her happy. It was painful, but it was also the first time in months that I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could start putting myself back together. It had been about 3 weeks since everything imploded when she showed up. No warning, no text, no call, just knocking on my apartment door like nothing had happened. I remember opening it and seeing her standing there in an oversized hoodie, hair tied up, holding a coffee cup like it was a peace offering. She looked smaller somehow. Not the confident, sharp version of her I used to know. More like someone who'd been chewed up and spat out by her own choices. She smiled weakly and said, "Can we talk?" Every part of me wanted to slam the door, but curiosity, or maybe some lingering ghost of love, made me step aside. She came in, looked around the apartment, and said, "It's nice. Cozy." Then she started crying. Full-on tears, shaking shoulders, the whole thing. She said she'd hit rock bottom, that Trent had ghosted her after the scandal, that she'd been so stupid and didn't realize what she had until it was gone. I didn't say much, just listened, arms crossed, leaning against the counter. She kept going. "I've been in therapy. I'm working on myself. I know I messed up, but I still love you." At one point, she reached out and grabbed my hand. And for a second, it was like muscle memory. That old connection flickered for just a moment before reality crashed back in. I pulled my hand away. "Tara," I said quietly, "you didn't love me. You loved that I made your life easier. You loved the version of me that didn't question you." She started shaking her head. "That's not true. You don't understand." But I did. I understood too well. I told her I'd seen the emails, the texts, the lies. I told her how she'd laughed when I confronted her, how she tried to make me feel crazy for knowing the truth. Her tears stopped cold at that. She just stared at me, face blank. Then she said, "So that's it? You're really throwing everything away?" That line made me laugh. Actually laugh, because she still didn't get it. I wasn't the one who threw anything away. I told her to leave. She stood there for a long moment, like she couldn't believe I meant it, and then walked out without another word. When the door shut, I just sat there on the couch, staring at the wall, waiting for the wave of regret to hit me. But it never came. All I felt was peace.